Great. Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm now going to call to order the November 4th, 2021 Special Town Board Meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilwoman Weber,
Here.
Councilman Delarada. Councilman Delarada. Councilman McPartlin.
Here.
Councilwoman McGraw. Councilwoman McGraw. Supervisor Syed.
Here. And Councilwoman McGraw just confirmed that she is here. I think she might be having technical difficulties.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
We are going to go slightly out of order, and I'm going to bring up Resolution 2021-250. I'm pleased to have this resolution appear before us this evening. We are joined by Kyle Apple and his family. Thank you all for joining us here tonight. It was wonderful to meet some of you. We are welcoming with open arms, Kyle, to our police department family. We know that you're going to be tremendously successful in your capacity here at the town. And I know that your fellow officers who are also here with us tonight feel the same way. So congratulations, and we welcome you. So with that said, this is Resolution 2021-250, sponsored by Councilman McPartlin. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution appointing a police officer in the town of Niskayuna's Police Department.
Thank you. I will second. Are there any additional comments?
Thank you. I just want to echo the supervisor's comments. Kyle, congratulations on your appointment to our department. We're very much looking forward to many years of service, and we're very happy to have you join our department. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments? Okay, seeing no additional comments, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilwoman Weber. Councilwoman Weber.
Looks like we lost
Councilman
her.
McPartlin.
Aye.
Councilwoman McGraw. Councilwoman McGraw. Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
You said aye. Oh, Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
Let's see
So,
if we can work out the technical difficulty.
Yeah.
So Lisa Weber was just with us, so we'll just
She
wait for her to
was. She'll have to
reconnect.
come back in.
Denise is typing that she's there.
Denise, we're taking the roll. Councilwoman McGraw.
And Denise, if you're able to register your vote via the comment section. Well, thank you all for your patience. Should just be another moment. These are the joys of hybrid meetings, right?
Councilwoman Weber, are you on? Should we come back to this? Or?
We may have
Okay.
to.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to give it another minute. We're going to wait for Lisa Weber to rejoin us because it appears that she was on and she just dropped off. So that could just be down to an internet issue at her location where she's at. So we'll just wait for her to rejoin us. So with that, we're going to open our public hearing. It's a public hearing regarding the preliminary budget for 2022.
Lisa
Oh,
just came
Lisa's
on.
back. Okay, so we'll hold on the public hearing for now. We're going to go back to Resolution 2021-250. So we have the roll call. We have Councilman McPartlin, aye. Supervisor Syed, aye. We are waiting for Councilwoman McGraw to register her vote, either verbally or via the comment section to type in. but we do have Lisa Weber, who has now joined us. So will the clerk please call the roll for Lisa Weber?
Councilwoman Weber?
Yes, thank you. My apologies. I had a technical issue
Thank you.
and had to join on a different device.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, and do we have a typed vote from Councilwoman McGraw? And Laura, I don't know if you can see the comment section.
There is, what is that blue
Okay.
thing?
All right, well, in the interim, we do have the required 3 votes that are necessary for passage of this resolution. So at this
We have
moment, this
3 ayes.
resolution has passed. So I'd ask that Kyle and any member of his family who wish to join us appear at the front with Chief Koshian. Have you stand here? So you're going to raise your right hand. Perfect. Okay. Be a little close so we can both get registered. Okay. I, Kyle Apple, do solemnly swear
I, Kyle Apple, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of police officer in the Niskuna Police Department
of police officer in the Niskuna Police Department,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And Chief Koshian would like to say some words.
Very briefly, I just want to thank Kyle's family for being here and the members of the Niskuna Police Department that are here to support their new member. We're really excited about Kyle. He brings a lot of young energy and enthusiasm. He's got a wealth of knowledge. He comes to us from the Albany County Sheriff's Office as an investigator. So we're really excited to get those characteristics and strengths and continue to build the momentum of our police department forward to better serve our community. So thank you so much to the town board for supporting this. We're really excited. Thank you.
Because on the student worker, it's got 250 also. It's 55.
Okay, and Michelle, for the record, we do have Councilman Delarada, who's just joined.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to continue on with our regularly scheduled program. So we're going to move into the public hearing section. Will the clerk please call the public hearing?
A public hearing regarding the preliminary budget for 2022.
Thank you. So the public hearing is now open. If anyone would like to speak during the public hearing, you can do so now. Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, can you hear me okay? Can I take this off? Okay, nice and loud. Got it. Okay, my name is John Lemelin. I live at 1106 Glen Meadow Court. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the town's 2022 preliminary budget. I've reviewed both the tentative and preliminary budget documents. I also attended all the budget workshops and found them to be very informative. I especially enjoyed hearing directly from each of the town department leaders regarding their accomplishments for 2021 and plans for 2022. As you know, I am an outspoken advocate for increased town board transparency and accountability. I believe that the recent budget workshops were an important step in this direction. Going forward, it is obviously important to continue to solicit participation and input from the town residents. I do apologize if some of my comments sound familiar. I submitted several of these comments in response to the earlier tentative budget. And while I do appreciate the verbal responses made by the supervisor in response to my previous letter, there does not appear to have been any corresponding changes in the preliminary budget documentation. Just to be clear, I am asking for each of these 3 points to be addressed in writing and incorporated into the town's final budget materials. Based on my review of the town's 2022 preliminary budget, I respectfully request that the following 3 points be addressed. Number 1, New York State Comptroller Report. Earlier this year, the New York State Office of the State Comptroller conducted an independent evaluation of the Niskayuna 2021 budget. In May of 2021, this office issued a report which included critical findings and recommendations regarding last year's budget. In the interest of transparency and completeness, I believe that it's important for the 2022 budget documents to acknowledge these findings and formally respond to the report's recommendations as appropriate. During the supervisor's response to this comment on October 21st, I was encouraged to hear that the town has addressed the report recommendations. This information should be added to the town's final budget documentation. I was also glad to hear that the comptroller has presented a comprehensive mid-year forecast to the town department heads. This mid-year forecast information is important to understand for the current budget process and should be made available to the public as quickly as possible. Number 2, one-time federal funding. While there are multiple lines in the detailed budget pages which refer to federal aid, there is no clear disclosure of the total amount or intended use of federal funds contained in the budget. I believe that the document would benefit from an honest discussion regarding all federal assistance, including federal funds which have been received and funds that are anticipated. Additionally, since these funds are obviously non-recurring, it is critical for the final budget to describe how the town's ongoing resource and revenue sources will be sufficient to balance the budget in the future. This point is especially important in light of the residents' previously expressed concerns regarding the use of fund balances of $995,000 and $1.384 million in the town budgets for 2020 and 2021, respectively. During the supervisor's verbal responses to this comment, we were told that the town expects to receive over $2.2 million in federal assistance. We were also told that the town has already received and not yet spent half of this money. This is obviously great news for the town. However, there are many questions that remain, including how is this money going to be spent? What budget modifications will be required? What are the constraints on use of these funds? Will there be any opportunity for public input on the topic? And what controls will be in place to ensure that the money is actually spent on the appropriate areas? And finally, how can the public be informed and involved in this process? It is important that there be a full accounting of the use of these federal funds in the town's final budget documentation. And since these are obviously one-time funds, town residents also deserve a description of how this revenue will be made up in future budgets. Number 3, wastewater treatment plant revenue. Conspicuously absent from the tentative and preliminary budgets is any discussion of the revenue generated from the wastewater treatment plant. I believe the transparency of this document would improve with the inclusion of a full accountability of the financial impact of this plant, including debt service and any revenue projections that were made during the bonding process. In the supervisor's verbal response, we were told that the anticipated revenue in 2022 for this project is $230,000. The budget also showed that the anticipated revenue in 2021 was $250,000, as well as the fact that the actual revenue from this project in 2019 and 2020 was less than $2,000. The public deserves to understand the situation with this project. For example, what is the 2022 revenue forecast based on? What assumptions are being made? Did the project generate the $250,000 revenue that was forecasted in 2021? Why or why not? Does the 2022 revenue forecast assume, for example, any specific DEC approvals? If so, what is the status of these approvals? And why have they taken so long? What is the anticipated impact on traffic and safety on Whitmire Drive? Were there any revenue forecasts that were part of the original project bonding process? What is the cost of the bonds that were issued to fund this project? And finally, were there any revenue guarantees made by the vendor, ESG? I hope this is helpful. I look forward to reviewing the final budget as soon as it becomes available. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. The budget public hearing is still open if anyone wishes to speak.
Kevin Walsh, can you hear me? Kevin Walsh, 2843 Whitmire Drive. Full disclosure, Chairman of the Planning Board, but I'm here speaking as a 26-year resident of Whitmire Drive. First of all, I'd like to thank the board and all the department heads for their hard work on the budget. I do understand how much time it takes to put in, and I do appreciate their service and their hard work there. I also want to speak about the revenue, the $230K for the septic fees in SOAR District 6. And I speak usually every year about this, as you all know, because it's near and dear to my heart. One thing I'd like to request, as this goes forward and, we get the correct approvals and start hauling the waste in, I request that the budget be modified to also include what I believe is called a special appropriation reserve. In other words, a rainy day fund. So if this comes to fruition and we start generating revenue, we talked about mitigation strategies such as widening the road, alternate access, or even just road maintenance from the wear and tear. If we would peel off some of that money, say 10 to 20% in a special appropriation reserve, we can utilize that money to help mitigate, and that's not shown in the budget. And of course, if we were to peel that money off and start a special fund, we'd have to rebalance the books, because we'd be taking money from that $230,000 projected revenue. So that's my request, and I think that would go a long way to showing the residents of Whitmire and those on River Road in the same vicinity that you're serious about mitigation and that you're looking to peel the money away to be able to do that, and I would really appreciate that. Thank you for listening, and have a good night.
Thank you. Budget public hearing is still open.
Can I take this on? Thank you. Dennis Brennan, 854 Barton Place, and I just submitted a copy of these comments to the town clerk for the record. I guess I should also, full disclosure, everybody knows I'm the town historian, but I am here speaking as a town resident. Last month, I sent a letter with a comment and some questions about the budget to Supervisor Syed, Controller Alam, and all members of the town board. And I would like to express my appreciation to the supervisor for taking the time to prepare answers and comments about my concerns and reading it into the record at the last town board meeting. The supervisor's comments were very helpful, provided some clarity about the process for me, so thank you. Nevertheless, I would like to take a few minutes tonight to briefly address 3 suggestions about the town's finances and budget process. First, given the complexities associated with the pandemic and its impact on our town, as well as all municipalities across the country, and the federal response in the form of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, or ARPA, I think there should be a town public meeting about ARPA. Town residents need a clear explanation about the process. We need to be more fully informed about what was requested, how it was decided, and how it directly impacts the budget and finances for both this year and next. The genesis and impact of a revenue line item of $1,040,072, which is 8% of the general fund revenue for the 2022 budget, demands fully transparent reasoning and justification. Second, both the tentative and preliminary budget documents need a column for estimated actual for the current year. As I believe the supervisor indicated in her answer to my letter, this information is already provided to the department heads as part of their budget preparation. So why not provide this information to the residents as well? By the time the 2022 budget was prepared, the 2021 adopted budget numbers, which are on the current budget documents, were 1 year old and functionally stale. Likely many line item estimated actual numbers, if such had been provided, deviated significantly from the 2021 adopted budget. And knowing those deviations in the current year can be significant and helpful in highlighting particular areas of concern. Two items can be used as examples of the value of providing a current year estimated actual details. One is legal services, which had a 2021 budget for $2,000. And considering that several legal investigations took place in 2021, the actual number for 2021 is likely much more than 2,000. We don't know the number, but we do know that the 2020 budget for legal services was $2,700, and the 2020 actual was $197,637. Was 2021's deviation similar? Another example is the septage revenue, which had a 2021 budget of $250,000 and an actual of perhaps $2,000. I don't really know that number. How was a budget gap of perhaps $300,000 or more for these two items filled, especially in a year when we were told revenue was down? More fund balance? Residents deserve to know the answer sooner rather than later. And third, the budget document itself is convoluted, challenging to digest, and very long. 79 pages with 7-point font in the preliminary budget. That alone makes it intimidating. Certainly, the whole budget document should be available for any resident interested in examining it in detail. However, the Controller's Office should, I believe, also provide a 1-page summary for each of the funds, which highlights the 8, 10, or 12 categories, for instance, wages, benefits, interest, etc., that makes up 80 to 85% or more of the budget total. I've attached to my comments a simple spreadsheet I prepared showing the high dollar categories for each of the 5 funds on the 2022 appropriations side only. In each of the funds, no more than 7 categories accounted for more than 85% of each fund's appropriations in the 2022 preliminary budget. A single-page summary of both appropriations and revenue for each of the funds would provide a big picture view that would, I think, be helpful for residents to decipher, digest, and better understand the town's budget. I hope you will consider implementing these suggestions, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. The budget public hearing is still open if anyone wishes to speak.
Leslie Gold, 1919 Pawtucket Avenue. I noticed that in the revised preliminary budget dated October 21st, the human resources position is no longer there, and instead there's consultant services. I will reiterate my support for a bona fide human resources specialist to work in the town, to report to the supervisor and the town board, be a competitive class position. At the last meeting, I suggested minimum qualifications, and I stand with them. I think the position should be filled by the merit system. But I forgot to mention that there's another group of possible candidates. That would be people whose experience is in the municipal services division at state civil service, because they're the ones to whom the locals go for assistance on their problems. They're the ones who actually monitor the local civil service operations, et cetera. So they would also qualify in my book. I will note, I do not qualify of the minimum qualifications I've proposed. I work strictly stateside, and I was very much a specialist rather than a human resources generalist. But I know enough to make recommendations on qualifications. There is not a position filled with somebody to whom the employees can go with a bunch of problems. If it's a payroll problem, they know where to go. If there's an insurance problem, they know where to go. But if it's something more difficult, truly human resources oriented, they're lacking that, and the board is also lacking that position to provide the expertise to serve as liaison with the county. I'm not proposing that we disrupt the relationship with the county civil service, where they are the interface with the State Civil Service Commission and with those folks in the Municipal Service Division. But I think the town has gotten large enough. Human resources, especially within the merit system in New York State, are complicated enough that a bona fide specialist with that experience is appropriate. I have to comment on something I heard before, because I've been attending budget workshops for many, many years. Most years, I'm the only member of the public sitting here. It's nothing new about that. The process has not really changed much. I know the detail in the budget is something that I look for. One of my frustrations with the state budget is over the recent 10 years or so, it's become less and less detailed, and you have really less information on how the money is being spent. So I appreciate the detail on the budget, and I know that for the controller's office, it's required by the state. I will note that previously we used to get pie charts on where the money was going and where the revenue streams were coming from, and they were useful summaries, probably better than a long text document, even a one-page one. Now, I have one comment that isn't relative to the public hearing, but there doesn't seem to be a privilege of the floor tonight. Or at least it's not on the agenda.
Correct. So if there's an additional comment above and beyond the budget public hearing, you can make that comment now.
All right. On resolution 2021-251, there's a comment, where is the town's human resources director? We don't have such a position. So I'm puzzled by that statement.
In the interim, it's considered Ismet Alam, who's our town's human resources manager. So that could just be
Well, but her
a typo.
title is comptroller, nothing else. So it's technically inaccurate. And I do have one word of caution that has nothing to do with the budget either. But I was astonished coming back from Latham a couple weeks ago and doing the traffic circle on River Road, not the new roundabout, the one that's been there for as long as I can remember, to find somebody going the wrong way and coming at me. So I would urge everybody to be very cautious there. And maybe we need some improved signage.
Thank you, Leslie. The budget public hearing is still open if anyone wishes to speak.
Good evening, Lorraine Zabin, 2455 Brookshire Drive. looking at this budget, I might as well look at all the 42 other budgets I've looked at. They're all alike. They're all the same. Every meeting, we will start to transfer funds from this department to that department because we didn't put enough money in X department. And I kind of laugh at that because no matter what numbers we put on these pages for these departments, it's never right. So I don't put a lot of faith in the numbers that you put on these millions and millions of sheets of paper that we destroy. And unfortunately, we've never learned to use both sides of the page. That might be an economical pleasure for somebody to figure out. The other thing I want to tell you is that the historian and I are not twins. We may look alike in certain parts of us, but I think the historian is very apt for his duties. The other thing I will tell you that in going through the budget and finding things I understand and I don't understand, but the historian, he should give that $500 back. I mean, I think it is absolutely ridiculous that you will give some kid $10 or $20 an hour to work, and you give the historian $500 for the year for all the words and the research and the things that he does. My point is that I think the historian is probably one, oh, thank you, Del, is one of the most important jobs the town has. We're 200 years old, for heaven's sake. And we'd certainly like to know that we have standing in the world and in the United States. And the more we keep it registered and the more we write about it, the more we gain the prestige that I have always felt for the town. I'm very disturbed. I think the budget has probably got more money in it than it needs, but then it's never right because we're going to start to bond again. And I have complained at over every meeting, every time we have bonding, because something comes up like a flash. Oh, we've got to have this piece of equipment, or we have to do that. Pretty soon we're going to have to push the walls out to be able to hire more people. And I know I'm being critical, but I do think that if half the money that we put in the budget, I think the town would be very happy. And I think the town might be able to get some more out of the taxes they pay when instead of paying for things out of our taxes, we bond. Or we also, on the other hand, things that we paid for in our taxes, we now start a fee service. Now, these, we can't come in here and scream and yell about every little thing you do. Some things you have to be left on your own intelligence because hopefully you do live here. They haven't taken away residency for our elected officials yet. And this is something I'm going to look at very carefully. The town is growing. When I moved here in 78, your budget was, I believe, $6 to $7 million. We had the little old town hall down on Balltown Road. And there was another figure that I thought you might find interesting. The supervisor at the time was Marty Moore. Just like we have a lady supervisor, we had a lady supervisor then. And I would also like the town, someplace in the budget, to have a sideline to keep that old town hall in good repair. If nothing else, I think it's privately owned now, but I'm not sure. I think we do have a little portion of a building down there for the sewer and water department. But as far as your budget is concerned, have fun with it. because the next time you sit here, and I think it'll be the 11th when you're going to accept the budget, I don't think you'll change any figures at that time. But, the next budget, the next town board meeting, we may start doing our fancy dance work with the switching of monies, transferring funds from here to there. I know there had been talk about doing something with our senior citizens. Well, I think the best thing you do is sell the whole plot of land and buy one of our old mansions and make it into a senior citizen place. Then we don't have to build something, and try to get the 4 acres back that we traded with the school board. And it's our 4 acres, and we got a piece of land down. I mean, I remember these things. That 4 acres at the head of our loop, was meant to be for the seniors, so that we could all be together and working for this town. And it never materialized. So be very careful what you say, because somebody always does remember it. But anyway, I want to thank you. It's very hard to get out now that it's getting dark so early. But on the other hand, I do appreciate even the ones that aren't here. And I'm not sure we know they're here. Are they here? Do they say something? Are they, wave your hand if you're here.
Hi, Mrs.
Hello,
Stevens.
thank you. But I thank you very much. I know it's been a struggle the past couple of weeks. But hopefully God will be good. We'll come back. We'll be here on the 11th. That's the next one, right? But
The
I don't
18th.
want you to change
The
a word of
18th.
this budget until after we get it approved, so we can start working it later on. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you. You too, Lorraine.
Thank you.
Thanks. The budget public hearing is still open if anyone wishes to speak, including those who are joining us remotely. And last call on the budget public hearing. If you would like to speak on the budget, you can do so now. Okay, seeing no one left willing to speak, I'm going to close the public hearing, and we are going to move on to Resolution 2021-251, sponsored by Councilman McPartlin. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing a memorandum of agreement with CSEA.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I will second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilwoman Weber,
Yes.
Councilman Delarada,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw, Councilman McPartlin,
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-252, sponsored by Councilman McPartlin. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution appointing an executive secretary in the Niskuna Police Department's administrative office.
Thank you. I will second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to thank Christine O'Brien for coming up to the police department. She's been a part-time employee here with the town. She was actually down in the court office. I want to thank the deputy chief for starting the process of getting her up into the police department, and our current chief following up on that and now making her a full-time person in the police department. So I want to welcome her up to the new department.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilwoman Weber,
Yes.
Councilman Delarada,
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin,
Aye.
Councilwoman McGraw, Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-253, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution accepting grant funds from the Niskuna Community Foundation for natural resource inventory.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilwoman Weber,
Yes.
Councilman Delarada,
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin,
Aye.
Councilwoman McGraw, Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-254, sponsored by Councilman McPartlin. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing a memorandum of agreement with Schenectady County and authorizing the acceptance of discovery and bail reform funding through New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services.
Thank you. I will second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilwoman Weber,
Yes.
Councilman Delarada,
Yes.
thank you. Councilman McPartlin,
Aye.
Councilwoman McGraw, Supervisor Syed,
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-255, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution hiring a student worker in the town's IT department.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilwoman Weber,
Yes.
Councilman Delarada, Councilman Delarada,
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin,
Aye.
Councilwoman McGraw, Supervisor Syed,
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Are there any additional items from the floor before I motion to adjourn? Okay, with no additional items, I'm going to motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? And we're adjourned for the evening. So we're going to take a brief pause while we close out the recording and live streaming of the special town board meeting. And then we are immediately going to take up, when we are ready, our town board agenda meeting.